Yo, what's good, y'all? I hope y'all are having a blessed day today. Welcome back to ETD React. It is your boy King Dave, and y'all, today I'm talking about big news. We got the US of A has struck Iran. If y'all haven't known, if y'all haven't heard about it, it's been a big whole thing. Israel has been launching missiles at Iran, and Iran has this big nuclear site, to get resources to build nuclear weapons, which USA and other countries obviously are against. So Trump has he's launched, I think it was like 6 bombs into their nuclear stuff. But yeah, y'all are gonna see. We're just gonna hop straight into it. I'm not gonna keep y'all here any longer.
Just in, that Iran directly threatened America?
Top tonight, NBC News has learned that message from Iran was conveyed to President Trump by an intermediary during last week's G7 summit, warning the president if he launched airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran could respond by unleashing terrorist attacks on the U.S. by activating sleeper cells it has inside this country, according to U.S. officials. All as we learn new details about those historic strikes.
Tonight, the new video, B-2 bombers returning to their Missouri base after those secretive strikes. And now our first look at the targets they hit inside Iran. These before and after images show the massive impact of the U.S. attack on Isfahan, one of 3 Iranian nuclear facilities hit.
Initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction.
Let's go.
Commander-in-Chief with this declaration overnight.
I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Pentagon officials say it's too soon to tell, but tonight the U.S. is also preparing for potential Iranian retaliation, though the Trump administration emphasizes the attack was intended as a limited one-time strike.
We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program.
President Trump inside the Situation Room with Vice President Vance, his Secretaries of State and Defense, as well as Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane. The president issuing this warning to the Iranian regime.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen.
The historic U.S. military operation complex and choreographed. The nuclear sites targeted, Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo, buried deep beneath an Iranian mountain. The U.S. adding the element of surprise, with the president giving the final green light 48 hours after announcing he would take up to 2 weeks to decide whether to strike.
Just a time to see
from 2 weeks to 2 days.
First, the apparent decoys. On Saturday morning, B-2 stealth bombers launching from Missouri flying west. Hours before the B-2s used in the actual strikes headed east. The U.S. deploying 14 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs for the first time in a military operation. In this satellite image of Fordo, if you zoom in, you can see several holes from the bunker-busting bombs, which explode underground. The B-2s also dropping them on Natanz.
They dropped 30,000-pound bombs on a target the size of a washing machine.
U.S. submarines firing Tomahawk missiles to hit the Isfahan site. In all, 125 U.S. warplanes and 75 precision-guided munitions used. And the Pentagon says Iran never fired a single shot.
This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pinning the praise on President Trump.
Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump.
And after Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard in March said Iran had an unprecedented amount of enriched uranium for a non-nuclear state, but that the Ayatollah had not ordered the development of a nuclear weapon, Secretary of State Marco Rubio argued the Iranian threat was urgent.
It doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons.
Peter Alexander, NBC News, the White House.
Yo, that is crazy. Look, I'm gonna keep it brief. I know some people, this is gonna be a divisive issue. Some people are not gonna want us to attack and engage in war. You know, keep peace. We don't be in war. Understandable. I don't want to be in war either. But when you look at it with Iran, Iran, they're kind of like the bigger country to a lot of these smaller groups like Hamas and, you know, other terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Iran is like a big dog of terrorism. We definitely don't want them having nuclear bombs. So I understand that this is kind of a necessary evil. You know, one thing that's interesting though is that they're talking about sleeper cells, activating sleeper agents in America. And so I'm gonna play this next video before I really give my thoughts about that. So we're gonna check this out.
A lot of people who we don't have full accounting of were let in over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. We know that some of those people were on terrorism watch lists, and this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen and to keep Americans safe.
There you go. The vice president
Hallelujah.
yesterday on Meet the Press. The White House warning about dangers of sleeper cells lurking here in the U.S. Why would they think that? Well, for the last 4 years of Joe Biden's policies, we've let in over 1,500 Iranian nationals. This is from the Border Patrol. Bill Maloogian got this last night. And guess what? Over 700 were allowed to stay. Senate Intel Committee Chair Tom Cotton knows all about it. Senator, when you talk about reprisals, people think about sleeper cells here. Do they have a right to be concerned?
Good morning, Brian. Unfortunately, they do have a right to be concerned. As you said, Joe Biden had a wide open border policy for 4 years. We know that terrorists tried to enter our country. Iran has a long history of terrorizing America going back 46 years, to include here in the United States. They tried to assassinate Donald Trump last year. Someone finally answered the call to Iran's fatwa against Salman Rushdie a few years back and brutally stabbed him. But I think it's important that we remember Iran did not become a terrorist state because Donald Trump bombed their nuclear bunkers. He bombed their nuclear bunkers because they're a terrorist state. And we cannot allow a terror state to have nuclear weapons.
Yes, and let them try to assassinate our president and Mike Pompeo and Brian Hook and John Bolton. Why was that allowed to stand? I don't get it. But just to break down a little bit more, some more stats on the border and why people are concerned about the people that have crossed. In 2021, 48 came across, then 197, then 462, and then the last year of Joe Biden, 797. So that's the IED in human beings that the Biden administration left behind.
Talk about
just
a
moving
slow
ahead and
drip.
talking about what's going to happen next. The foreign minister of Iran is going to Russia today. And ahead of that meeting, the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, says this: the enrichment of nuclear material, and now we can say it outright, the future production of nuclear weapons will continue. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. That is just off the charts crazy.
What?
How do you view it?
Excuse me?
Well, one, he doesn't have real influence inside of Russia. Vladimir Putin does. He was Vladimir Putin's puppet for 4 years when he was president during the Obama era. And two, I think you see that kind of bluster and rhetoric because Iran is providing no real support, or I'm sorry, Russia is providing no real support to Iran. For the second time in just 8 months, one of Iran's main clients in the Middle East has faced dire straits, and Russia has stood by. The first was last fall when Bashar al-Assad's tyranny fell in Syria. What did Russia do? It simply gave Assad a one-way trip to Moscow. Now, Donald Trump, after 25 years of presidents promising that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, has finally acted on it and destroyed their key nuclear facilities and infrastructure. And what has Russia done? Issued a strongly worded statement and welcomed Iran's foreign minister to Moscow. So I think this is mostly just bluster to cover up the fact that Russia is a pretty fickle friend to have in the world.
Senator, people like to label people like you war hawks or neocons. Lindsey Graham, war hawk. Are you a war hawk or a neocon?
No, Brian, I'm someone who puts America's interests first, just like Donald Trump. And for 10 years, like Donald Trump, I have said that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Iran has been terrorizing the United States and the civilized world since 1979. They have the blood of thousands of Americans on their hands. As President Trump has said repeatedly, so have I said, Iran can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That means Iran cannot have any path to nuclear weapons either.
In his personal year, here in the infantry, in Iraq, we've lost 600 plus guys. It's more like over 1,000, according to former Secretary of Defense Austin. And it's directly linked to Iran. And they've never been forced to pay for that. Maybe the payback begins. And I don't think that's being a war hawk. I think it's defending America. Senator Tom Cotton, thanks so much.
Well, I agree. But yeah, man, y'all, that's the thing. With all this open border, all these people are crossing, we don't know who is inside of our country. You know, there could be whole smaller armies of people ready to rise up. But y'all, these sleeper agents, these I think sleeper cells they're called, that's no joke. Like, that's a real thing. That's kind of goes along with the MK Ultra stuff, like with the mind control and whatnot. But you know, that's just one thing that is a result of all this. Well, all that's kind of a result of the open border. But what I mean is now, okay, so the airstrikes are done. We struck their nuclear sites. What's next? Well, one, like they just said, they have the possible threat of sleeper agents already inside our country, so we can have an attack from within. Second thing is there is something called the Strait of Hormuz, and I'm gonna just show y'all this clip right here.
But there is this that is happening as well here. The Strait of Hormuz, I think that this is really important, is that you've seen the Iranian government, according to state media, putting in motion plans to seal off the Strait of Hormuz. That's a significant trade channel right there. Over 20% of oil going through that route that is right there. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked about this today, in which he said that he believes that if Iran does make that decision, it would be a terrible mistake and quote-unquote economic suicide. But that is a development that we're watching very closely here, because that could have global ramifications here.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, Robert, it would hurt them being the Iranians, but the other country to watch with that is China, because China is the country that gets almost all of Iran's oil. China gets like 10-12% of its oil from Iran, but that's like 90% of Iran's oil, I think. So see what Iran says if that or what China says if that ends up happening. Thank you.
Jeez, man. So yeah, now Iran is talking about blocking up the Strait of Hormuz, which, as y'all seen, has a big deal with trade, with global trade, with oil trade. It's a big interest in China, so now China is more involved in this whole situation. But another thing, y'all, so that's another thing that Iran could possibly still battle with America or Israel over that strait. So there could be more warfare, you know, that could make things a little more complicated, because Trump wants peace. You know, he wants to bring strength through peace is his whole thing. But Iran, as of today, June 23rd, Iran has already responded to this. So check this out, y'all.
Breaking news as Iran has officially launched missiles towards the United States bases in Iraq and Qatar. And here you can see the American missile defense system, as 6 missiles were struck towards the forces in Qatar. They're saying that none of them landed as far as we know, but there is a take shelter alert that has been enforced in Iraq and Qatar. And Qatar has shut down their whole airspace system. And we're getting word that sirens are now sounding at other United States bases. Things are moving extremely quick today, so I'll be sure to keep you guys updated on what happens next.
Jeez. So y'all, as y'all can see, things are moving very fast with this manner. And I'm not a fear monger, but I completely transparent. You know, this is the closest that America has been to being involved in World War III, I believe, in the last so many years. I mean, forget Russia and Ukraine, man. I mean, the thing is, Iran, they struck missiles at American military bases in Qatar, and I think it was just Qatar, if not more bases in the Middle East, and all the missiles were intercepted. But what if they weren't? You know, what if Iran shot these missiles and it killed real American troops? I don't think Donald Trump's gonna just back away from that. I think things are gonna escalate more, and I don't think Iran's looking to negotiate, you know, diplomacy or peace. I think Iran's going to do as much as they physically can to resist us. Trump's whole thing is strength through peace. You know, and honestly, obviously we want peace. But here's the thing, y'all, with all these wars going on, with Trump talking about all this peace, this is significant for the end times. So I'm going to drop the scripture on y'all and we're going to close out of here. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5:3. When people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin, and there will be no escape. So this is talking about the end times. This is talking about when there's a lot of talk about peace, everything's going to be peace, we're going to be safe. Right after that, disaster is going to fall. So it almost gets you in a mind space where you're happy to hear about the wars and stuff. But y'all, we're in the end times. It just is what it is. Things aren't going to be peachy creamy for the rest of our lives. You know, war is going to be part of our life, and even the more we hear about peace, that means the closer we are to the end. So, and the closer we are from more destruction. But anywho, this is not for fear. This is for knowledge, so you can be wise, so you can grow a relationship with God now before it's too late, and have God direct you how He will direct you. And you know, as long as you have a relationship with Jesus, then you really don't have any wars, any end times. You don't have to be fearful about anything, in Jesus' name. So anywho, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed this. If big things continue to happen with this, I'll continue to make more videos. But yeah, y'all, just keep up with Iran. This is a big situation. So anywho, y'all, I love y'all. God bless y'all, and peace out.